Hi, I'm Louis Reed, President of the Board of Aldermen. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Behind the Scenes as we tour the Third Degree Glass Factory. Doug, thank you for giving us an opportunity to talk to you about the Third Degree Glass Factory. Can you give us a little bit about the history of the glass factory and how you guys got started?
Sure, yeah. Back in 2000, I graduated from college, came back to St. Louis to teach glass blowing at Washington University. And I met Jim McKelvey. Jim's a local entrepreneur and also a glass blower. And short story is, Jim and I both wanted a place to blow glass, and there wasn't really a place in St. Louis to do that. So we literally drove down Delmar looking for sale signs. And Jim said, well, you know, let's look for a building and we'll start there. And so we found this place, which is about 15,000 square feet of what was basically trash, pretty much a vacant building. 2 weeks later, Jim bought the building and handed me a checkbook, and the rest is history. Yeah.
Now, what was this before you started? Was it a car lot? I mean, what was it?
Right.
Was it
from
a
what we
gas
understand,
station?
yeah, it was part of a car dealership in the 50s. The entire building is a collection of, I think, 3 different buildings that were built over probably the course of about 50 years. So a filling station first, and then a car repair, and then part of Tom's Pontiac, from what we understand.
So you started at Washington University,
right?
Learning the glass blowing techniques. Do you consider yourself an artist, or is it just an entrepreneur, or what do you
Great question. You know, I have a degree in industrial design, so that's art related.
Okay.
But for me, yeah, I consider myself an artist, although I rarely get to actually make art. I spend most of my time running the business. And it's 9 years now, so yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank
This
you.
turned out wonderful. And you know, one of the things that we want to talk about as we get into it is kind of the art of glass blowing, and you know, just some of the techniques for coming up with some of the beautiful pieces that you come up with. And what kind of investment did it cost for you guys to get this thing started? What kind of initial investment did you guys have?
Pretty significant. You know, the building, fortunately, we got a pretty good deal on, but the equipment and the rehab of the building has been pretty expensive. You know, if I had to give you a ballpark, it would be somewhere around $500,000 to $750,000.
Wow, that was an
initial investment, yeah.
So that was a really big step and a really big risk on you guys' part getting into this business in St. Louis. So what else do you do? Do you just produce pieces for sale? Do you have classes? What is included in Third Degree Glass?
Great question. Well, we've got 3 main lines of business. So yes, 1, we produce glass and sell it here in the gallery. 2, we teach classes. And 3, we actually host private events. So we started off with the idea of teaching classes because we thought, well, if this is as exciting as it is to us, surely other people would like to learn about glass blowing.
Yeah.
So before we could do anything, we actually had people in here teaching classes. The windows were still boarded up, and we barely had a bathroom, but we brought people in and started teaching them glass blowing.
So Doug, tell us a little bit more about the renovation.
Sure. Well, most of our initial investment was on getting the glass operation up and running, so we couldn't put a lot of money into the building right away. So we did things in stages. First, we started teaching. We needed bathrooms to teach classes, so we built some bathrooms.
That's kind of important.
Minor detail, you know. And then we started producing glass, so we needed to be able to sell it. So we started cleaning up the gallery space. So our first gallery is what's called the Hot Shop Gallery now. It's adjacent to where the glass is made. As that progressed, people started coming in, and they liked the space so much that they actually wanted to have events here. So in fact, we have a neighbor down on Washington Terrace, just a block away, that came in one day and said, we want to have our Christmas party here. And we want to invite all of our friends. Yeah. How much does this cost to rent? And we looked at it and we were like,
wait a minute.
Rent this? So that was sort of when we knew, like, we've got to do something about this to get the public in here for events. So our goal then became making this place event worthy, you know, and make it another St. Louis event venue. Which 9 years now, we're still working on it. We're getting closer. Our floors are shiny now. You know, had you come in a month ago, they weren't, believe it or not. So it's one step at a time.
So this space here is the event space where people can book for events.
Right. This is what we call the East Gallery.
And then how far in advance generally do they need to call to be able to book?
You know, we're actually booking over a year out now.
Wow.
Yeah, we've got events booked for 2012 and counting. They just
You probably never thought that.
no, I didn't. In fact, we're averaging almost 2 events a week over the course of the year now, so it keeps us very busy. It's a big part of our business.
So Doug, we've seen the event space. Tell us about the hot shop.
Sure. Well, the Hot Shop Gallery here is where all of the work made at Third Degree is put out and on display, and it's for sale. So literally hundreds of pieces of glass are made here every week, and usually the next week they end up in the gallery available for purchase. So we've got probably about a dozen artists represented here in the gallery, and in fact this particular artist took his very first class here at Third Degree, so sort of see it full circle.
So you saw this artist grow from just learning to blow glass to a full-fledged artist.
His very first experience with glass was here. He took our very first class that we offered, and now he's making this beautiful work.
Wow. And how, like you see the stripes, how do you layer that? What do you do to get that?
That's pretty tricky. It's hard to explain, but he's basically building up collars of different colors of glass on the blowpipe. Not an easy thing to describe.
And then he shapes it out from there?
Right. All of the pieces start as sort of a basic bubble. So a blown bubble on the end of a blowpipe, and then we add more glass to make a larger object. And then at some point, they get transferred off of the blowpipe, and they're actually attached to the bottom.
Of the blowpipe?
Right. And then you open the form. So before this was a bowl, it was actually sort of spherical. Okay. And then they had to flare it out to make that bowl shape.
Make the bowl.
Right.
And then everything, even from a wine glass, right?
Yeah, very complicated. So that wine glass may take half an hour, 45 minutes to make, just one glass.
Wow.
Yeah.
And they're all unique pieces this way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we've got another artist here. This is a different process. I mentioned earlier kiln working. So this isn't blown glass. This is kiln worked glass. And it's made by taking strips of colored glass. See the different colors of white there?
Yeah.
Every one of those is an individual piece of glass that was cut by hand. Wow. And then layered and fused together.
So every one of these stripes are
one of them.
all layered?
Yeah.
Wow. How long does that take then?
That's a great question. We'll have to ask Mark. I would guess he's got a few hours into just cutting the glass and then putting it into the oven.
And then this piece here.
Yeah, same idea. So very simple comparatively. So those are just squares of blue glass that were cut and then added to a clear sheet of glass and fused onto the surface. So you can sort of feel the individual pieces of glass on there.
Wow, that is beautiful.
So we do private demonstrations. You can bring a group in and we can just show you the process of glass blowing. But not only that, we can get you involved, which we're going to do in just a little bit. We actually can make paperweights with the guests. So a very popular thing we do, like at wedding receptions or corporate parties, is the guests actually come up and work one-on-one with an instructor to make their own paperweight during the event. It's a lot of fun.
Awesome. Can we take a look at these glasses here?
Yeah, you bet. So these are handmade glasses by our director of education. Brendan makes these. He's actually working up in the shop today. We may catch him working a little bit later.
Really neat pieces.
Yeah.
Those are really neat pieces. And this looks very complicated, just all the colors that are in it.
It's actually quite simple. In fact, we're going to use a technique very similar to that to get the color in our paperweights today.
Okay.
So those are just little chunks of broken colored glass that we'll be adding to the clear.
Yeah. So what about like supplies? Do you get it from, can you just use, any broken glass or?
Great question. No, we can't. The colored glass that we use is very specifically made for glass art. Okay. It has to be made compatible with the clear glass. So when we're up there today, you'll see we have a furnace full of clear glass. It holds about 300 pounds of clear glass. But to add these colors to it, they have to be chemically compatible. And what I mean by that is, when the glass is being worked, it's very hot. It's about 2,000 degrees. But as it cools, it shrinks. And if the two glasses are not compatible, it will shrink at different rates. So I don't want to get too scientific, but if they shrink at different rates, they actually will break themselves apart. So obviously we don't want that to happen. So these particular colors are all made to work with our clear glass.
And work together.
Yeah, so we buy from various manufacturers.
What are we going to see next?
I think we'll head over into the kiln and flame working areas. So here we are in the flame working studio. And this is Libby. She's our director of flame working.
Hello.
Hello, Libby.
So Libby's working with a small torch and some glass rods, and she's heating and applying the glass to what's called a mandrel. I'll let her take it from there.
Yeah, the glass that I use is it's from Italy, and it's called Moretti glass. It's a soft glass similar to the kind of glass that we use in the hot shop, but it does cool at a different rate than the hot shop glass.
But it heats up and melts at a lower temperature, or is it still about the same?
Actually at a little bit lower temperature.
And what are you making?
Well, actually I'm just making a base bead right now, and then before you guys got here I made this twisted cane. It's got a bunch of different glass that I've put into a cane, and now I'm going to apply it onto the bead.
What is the history of glass? Where did this all start, Libby?
Glass beads are actually the oldest glass art form, and glass originally started out for trading for goods. Back in Egypt, they have found beads in the tombs, so it's a very, very old form. It rose more in popularity about the time that the Italians started finding it, and I know everybody has heard of the island of Murano, and in about 1292, because the furnaces were there also, similar to the hot shop, and the lamp workers were there, they made it a rule that all of the glass would be done on the island of Murano, simply because they didn't want the city to burn. And then also they found out later on that a lot of their income and a lot of their trade was done with glass beads, so they kept all of the glass blowers and the glass bead makers on the island under penalty of death. They couldn't leave. So that's why you find a lot of the fourth and fifth generation of glass blowers and flame workers on the island, is because that tradition was handed down from family to family to family.
Wow. And so the bead that you're making now, will that be used in a necklace or what?
Yeah, the glass beads are usually made into jewelry and necklaces, although there are a lot of people that collect glass beads as just an art form in itself, and they serve no purpose other than just to collect.
And then how long will it take you to make a typical necklace in the glass bead?
Well, it takes me quite a while to make the beads itself, and then some bead makers are not jewelry people, so they'll just give the beads to someone who would make it into a necklace, and a necklace can take anywhere from an hour to a couple of days, depending on how complicated you want your piece to be.
So Libby, how long have you been in glass blowing?
I've been doing it for 14 years, which is kind of a long time. The glass bead making or the flame working in the United States is fairly new, only about 20 years old. And when we first started in the United States, the flame workers, the glass bead makers, we couldn't find out any information from the Italians. They were still of the mindset of, we don't give away our secrets, which comes from that old tradition. Comes from that old tradition of father to son to father to son, handing down certain techniques that they weren't going to share with the other families. So it was similar. The glass bead makers struggled for quite a long time trying to find out information. You'll see that the mandrel is coated with something that is called bead release, which is kind of like just like a clay-like substance, so that the bead does not stick to the mandrel, and that when it cools, I can twist it and take it off.
And bring it right off.
Well, we didn't know how to figure out that bead release, and the Italians weren't going to tell us how they did it. So we kind of had, we had to figure it out on our own, and we had to figure out quite a few techniques. Now it's gotten to the point where the Americans have really taken their techniques and really gone past what the Italians are doing. And now the Italians kind of like are looking at us a little bit and saying, well, I guess they're okay.
They're okay.
They'll do.
They'll do. So, how hot does that flame have to be?
This flame is about 1,300 to 1,400 degrees.
1,300. So people can come in and take classes?
They sure can. This is something that you can learn how to make glass beads. We have a weekend intensive class, which is a Saturday, Sunday, and then we have a longer class, which is a 6-week class. And by the end of those 2 classes, you're able to make beads with dots and decorations and shapes. So you get the basics of glass bead making.
Okay, all right. And typically, how far in advance do people have to book to be able to get in the class?
Actually, the classes, usually you can come in the day before if you want to register the day before. So there's always our website that you can go to and look up our classes, but typically we always have room for people.
Well, thanks, Libby. Stick with us as we tour the rest of the Third Degree Glass Factory. When you get back, we're going to take a look at some commission work. We're even going to make a couple pieces. So this is an episode you don't want to miss.
Keep watching STL TV. Experience St. Louis.
Thank you for staying with us on this episode of Behind the Scenes as we tour Third Degree Glass Factory. So, Doug, tell us about the commission work. Tell us what you're doing here.
Sure. Well, we're in the kiln working studio now, just right next door to the flame working. And this is Mark. He's our director of kiln working. We've been doing a lot of custom commission work, so a lot of repairs. This is actually a repair that Mark's been working on for the Ballpark Hilton. It's a wall sconce.
So anybody in town or anybody any place, if they have a custom piece of glass, whatever that they break, they can come here. You guys can take a look at it and reconstruct it.
Yes. Like I said before, the Hilton had a bunch of these lamps that had been broken, and they were interested or wondering if we could repair them for them. We did not make the originals, and so part of the challenge is coming up with the colors and just trying to figure out how the original one was made. This one is still in progress. It's in the flat stage now. Eventually it'll be bent or melted over this metal mold we have.
So do you have to create the metal mold also?
Yep, we have to make everything.
Wow. Wow. So this piece, how do you start off, like making sure you get the colors and everything right? What do you have to do?
Well, the hard part about getting color matching is that we don't make our colors. Like a painter can just mix up a color that they want. For us, we have to go through our catalogs and see what we can actually order or buy. We have two main distributors that we work with in the kiln area. And when we get the glass, it comes in sheets, just like window glass, stained glass, very similar to that. Here are a couple scrap pieces from this project. You can see these little pieces on here. We'll start out just as little squares.
So how do you get it from here where the sharp edges to smooth and dimpled and all fused in there? What happens to make that happen? What do you do?
The smooth edge is just part of the melting process. When we put this into our kiln, heat it, it essentially does what we call fire polishing, which is softening or melting the glass.
Okay. Does it automatically dimple it also?
Yep. This is just part of the process of heating it. It kind of dimples, and some of the glass we have starts with a texture, and when we fire it, it actually goes smooth. So.
And a piece like this, how long will it take you to finish it?
From start to finish, it might be, 8 hours of work. Okay. But you can't do all that 8 hours in one day. Okay. A lot of it is cutting the glass, cleaning it, getting ready for the kiln. The kiln and the firing will take anywhere between 5 to 10 hours, depending on what it is doing in the kiln.
All right, Mark, so what are we going to do here?
Here we're going to cut a circle. We're going to use a...
Sounds simple enough, but I imagine it's not. Right?
Yeah, we're going to ask this when you break glass, we're going to ask it to do a complete circle, which is not something it normally does.
So it's probably not as easy as when you see it on the movies. They do it in burglars.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work like that, actually. So we'll see that today. So I've kind of already set this up a little bit for us, but this is our circle cutter. It's got a suction cup. It's got a silica carbide wheel down here that's actually going to scratch the glass in a circle for us. Mark the center, all right, and we'll start right at this line so you'll know when to stop.
Right there.
Use this handle up here.
Right here. And
yep. Press down, that's good. All the way around. All right, that's good.
That's good.
Pull this off, and now this is the tricky part. The light, just kind of push down just a little bit.
That's a lot harder than...
It'll break eventually. There it goes.
Oh.
And now we just want to keep working around until we get that. Stay back here where it's already broken.
Okay.
And you can wiggle the two pieces of glass and see it kind of work its way around.
Oh. I imagine you got cut a few times on that.
I usually get cut every day, it seems like. There's little pieces of glass all around us. All right. So now we're going to use this cutter.
Okay.
And same here, just grab a hold of it. And don't go over here, but just start here and go out to the edge.
Does it matter?
Nope, just put that tip down and then pull, raise your hand just slightly right there. All right. We'll use these.
Okay.
And then right there, go ahead and just give it a little squeeze.
So you actually put it over the line if the line is in it. You put it in the middle of the line?
Yep,
and you
right there,
just squeeze
light
it?
pressure. There you go. And we'll do the same thing. Might be able to get, Doug was wanting me to try to pop it out.
I think you got it first try.
Excellent, excellent. Where are we going next, Deb?
We're going to the hot shop. Let's make a paperweight.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Thanks.
So, Louis, we're in the hot shop now. This is where most of the glass blowing happens. And we're going to make a paperweight today. So,
Look,
we've got some glass blowing pipes and what we call punties, which are solid rods. And that's what we actually get the glass out of the furnace with. So, I'm going to grab a punty. This is a little bit tough. I can't have you do it first time out. So, I'm going to do this part for you.
and how hot are those rods?
So the rods are only a couple hundred degrees. We have to preheat them though because the glass won't stick to cold metal. So this is our melt furnace, and this is about 2,000 degrees.
And so this furnace is filled with glass?
That's right. There's a crucible or a big pot in there, it's like a ceramic pot, full of molten glass. It holds about 300 pounds of molten glass.
And that stays on all the time?
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So let me get some out of there.
Whoa.
So it's hot, yeah. So the glass is sort of the consistency of honey when it's at that temperature. So you can see when I come out of here, it's glowing bright yellow, orange. That's the heat we're seeing. And if I stop turning, notice how it sags.
Yeah.
So let's go add some color to this glass.
Okay.
Because this is just clear right now. So if you would, I'll have you stand right here. You can go ahead and take that from me. And let's just pick a couple of colors. You got some blue glass there. And how about green with this one?
Yeah.
Just set it in there. Actually, put it back in the green a little bit more. Great job. All right. So that's crushed colored glass.
So that's crushed colored glass,
Right.
and it's not heated yet.
Right. We're going to melt that into the surface now. So, yep, just set it down right there. Now, I want you to keep an eye on it and just keep rotating it nice and slow.
Is there any special thing we need to do when we're rotating it?
Well, we want to keep the glass on center. So as the glass starts to get hot, it'll start to move. It'll start to flow again like it was when we came out of the furnace. And your job is to keep that glass from sagging too much.
Okay,
so every time it falls, you flip it over.
Flip it over.
You got it.
And then eventually the colored pieces melt right into
It's happening right now. See how they're starting to smooth out?
Yeah.
They were very sharp looking. Now they're getting smoother and smoother the hotter it gets.
And so the different glasses that we're using, are they special glasses so that they work together like you were telling me earlier?
Yeah, the colored glasses are made specifically for us to use with this type of clear glass. I'm going to take that from you right now because it's getting pretty hot. Go ahead and have a seat here at the bench.
Okay.
Now I want you to grab the small tweezers on the, yep, there you go. Okay, so at this point we're creating the interior decoration on the paperweight. I'll get this part, you just work on this end. I want you to go ahead and pinch the glass and stretch it out nice and slow. Don't pull too fast.
Okay.
You can actually grab those tweezers a little bit closer to the tips. So put your fingers up a little closer, it'll be easier to work with.
To the tip.
Go ahead and stretch that out about 4 inches. There we go. Whoop. It looks like a giraffe head. Is that what you were going for?
It does what I was going. I've been a great artist.
Go ahead and pull that out a little bit further. This part right here.
Pull this piece.
Yeah. So now the question is, can you screw this up? And the answer is no.
Okay. Well, you haven't seen my product
me.
yet.
Trust me. We're good. So this is the idea. This swirling color will be the interior of our paperweight.
Okay. And it's getting kind
starting
of
to get
tough.
stiff, right?
Yes.
That's the idea. So let's stop with that for now. I'm going to actually push on this. I want you to pick up the block out of that bucket behind you. Yep, that's the one with the green handle. So let's practice this next part. I'm going to come back. I'm going to coat this with clear glass. I'm going to have you wait here. When I come back, I want you to use that block to smooth the glass out.
Got it.
So I'll roll towards you. You just roll with me.
Just roll with it.
Just come with me and then come right back this way. You might have to dip that in the water a couple times. I'll be right back. I may have spoke too soon. I think we can salvage it, but I'm just kidding. Okay, all right. Now I want you to take that and tip it this way a little bit. There we go, just like that.
Tip it and then.
And when I tell you, slowly tip it towards us, but not yet. In fact, we're going to roll back this way. Go ahead and dip it in the water, please. The glass is so hot that it's starting to burn the wood, and we want to keep the wood nice and wet. There you go. Now slowly tip it towards you and me. There you go. That's the idea.
Oh, probably a little slower,
Good.
huh?
Go ahead. One more time in the water. Okay,
Yeah.
so let's tip it back the other direction now. So away from us, tip it down that way.
That
there
way
you go.
now.
Good, good. Okay, good. Put the block in the bucket. You're gonna take the jacks.
That's
That's
it.
the one. You're holding them correctly. Actually, don't flip them over in your hand. You had them right the first time. There you go. Okay, so this is the tricky part. And it's also a little bit hot. So if your hand starts to feel the heat, you let me know.
Yeah,
I want
it's
you to
nice.
squeeze gently. Okay, we're gonna roll back towards me.
All right.
Try to keep
And
it in
just
that groove there.
Keep it right in the groove.
Not too hard, not too hard.
Oh, just kind
You're
of.
stronger than you look. Okay, all right. All right, good. Squeeze a little bit harder now.
Okay.
And I want you to resist. I'm gonna pull the glass towards us. I want you to push it that way while you're squeezing. So
While
there you go, there you go. Okay, good. Don't squeeze anymore. Keep that diameter,
Ooh,
that
you can
pressure.
feel the
Is that
heat.
getting hot?
Yeah, you can feel the heat coming up out of.
Go ahead and pull more. I'm gonna pull pretty hard. We want to stretch that out. There we go. See how it's stretching?
Yes.
Good. Stop. Take the jack off of there. Okay. So this is the final step in the actual paperweight. These happen very quickly, or at least if you do them right, they
You
happen
do.
quickly. So we're letting gravity sort of pull the paperweight back down.
So now the gravity is pulling it and creating
Right. We
like
want
a
to
dimple.
Right. Right. So that when we break this off, where it breaks off won't touch the table. That way
okay.
this will sit nice and flat on the table. And we don't have to do any extra work. Now that paperweight is still probably close to 1,000 degrees, believe it or
Wow.
not.
So right now this thing's 1,000 degrees.
Yeah, and if I set it on the
You wouldn't
wooden
wanna
table here,
grab.
it's going to start to smoke in a second. See that?
Oh,
That's
yeah.
how hot it is. Now we have to cool this glass very slowly, so it's going to go into an annealing oven.
And this is called a kneeling oven?
That's right. So the annealing is the process of cooling the glass down to room temperature.
Okay.
So we won't actually be able to see or touch this paperweight for about 24 hours.
What other kind of events do you do here?
Sure.
And what
Well,
else- what
I'll
else?
tell you what, one of the great events that we do for the public is our third Friday of the month open house party. So the third Friday, third degree, third Friday
Okay.
of every month, we have an open house. It's in the evening from 6 to 10 p.m.
Okay.
And it's free to the public. We have a cash bar, live music, glass blowing demonstrations, and activities like the paperweights. Family, kids can come and do this stuff on every third Friday of the month.
Every third Friday of the month. What time does it start?
It's 6 to 10 p.m.
6 to 10 p.m. All right, and again, that website, if they wanted to look it up.
Sure, it's www.stlglass.com.
Thanks a lot, Doug. Appreciate it. And thanks to each and every one of you for joining us on this episode of Behind the Scenes as we tour Third Degree Glass Factory.